Hi everyone, Farmer Jane from Specht Haven, picking up here where we left off with the April garden tour. So this is part 2, and apologies again for the way I'm cutting off the previous and cutting into this next portion of the video. And also apologizing, this one does have a little bit of breeziness, a little bit of wind noise, so sorry about that. But it gives you a nice overview of the far orchard where most of the fruit trees reside. So have a look now for the remaining portion of the April garden tour. So this is more the area that will be, close to our barn, close to our house, almost more of our yard, if you would call it that, where we'll spend a lot more time around the lake. So as we leave this area, we get out to a lot more fruit trees, which again were planted as a full grid when they were first planted. Must have been about 15 years ago, and I've had the property for almost 9. I don't know for sure how long they were here. I mean, they were at least 3 or 4 or 5 years old. So I call this the far orchard because it's in one of the furthest corners. And these trees are doing okay. Again, they still need a lot of TLC. We have a couple of pear trees down here, and a couple of these are a red pear. And there's more pears at the very end. The ones you see blooming that look gorgeous, they should also smell really wonderful. I haven't smelled them yet. These are all plum trees. So there's 2 full rows of plum trees here, except for the ones that I've already lost. So lots of plum trees. And then further out by the corner, there are a couple of cherry trees. And the far edge was planted with peach trees. And all of those peach trees, except for one, which is barely hanging on, all of those peach trees didn't make it for some reason. There was even one of these might be a peach, but I think these 2 really small trees right here, I don't think they're coming back this year. They're looking pretty rough. I don't see any buds of any kind on this tree. So again, this is what I call the far orchard. Still going to work really hard to try to bring back to health what's here. But then starting this year, I do hope to add to the orchard. There are no apple trees here, so I'd like to plant apple trees for sure. And try to just get some more fruit trees going. And hopefully take care of these plums. I have seen fruit on the plum trees, but not every year. I think sometimes their blossoms are really susceptible to not even early frost, the frost and freezing in the early spring. So we'll come this way, just check out a couple more things quickly. So this was a new project at the very end of last year. Another one of those things that just on a whim decided to go for it. And this will be a tea garden, and this is called Granny's Tea Garden. So this one's dedicated to my granny, and it will definitely have lots of the flowers that you can use to make herbal tea. Lavender, chamomile. I'm trying to grow valerian and stevia. So far that's not going very well, but I'll keep trying. But I did also add some bulbs. So there are some daffodils, there are some crocus, there are some allium. You can see there's a couple of crocus left. So really excited for this garden this year. And these are pear trees in this garden. So two pear trees that are within the garden and 2 pear trees on down the line. Oh, there's a daffodil. There's a tiny one. This might actually be a variety that I planted before last year. So each of these plum trees has a few daffodils. They're just really hiding in the overgrowth. I can see them. They're hard to see, of course, I'm sure on the video. But there are a few daffodils around each of these plum trees. They look gorgeous. The blooms look gorgeous. Another garden I started last year, didn't get back to it, got very overgrown, but I am determined to get it going this year. And this garden will be dedicated to my husband's grandma, whose name is Helen. And this is Helen's blooming alley. I found out that she was an avid bowler, so that's how I came up with the name of this garden. So I'm looking to get this better cleared. But this also has some sumac that I planted the sumac at least 3 years ago. And they were planted really as twigs. So they're finally, this is the biggest spurt of growth was last year. So they're looking really pretty now. I think I lost a couple of them, but I also purchased some more seedlings. So I'll put a couple more in here to be here in Helen's blooming alley. I don't know how well you can see it, but I had even done a brick edge, and then I just didn't get back to it, and it got completely overgrown. A couple more pear trees down here. And I'm hoping to, in between all of the fruit trees, I'm hoping to make it so that I just mow, this path, this direction. And then in between the trees, I want to put just lots and lots and lots of flowers. So I'm hoping to make, basically a no-mow zone in between the trees so that I don't have to mow in a grid or like crossways. I only mow in one direction. And then in between are like just rows of flowers. So that's what I'm going to start working on this year. Then the last garden area, which we'll look at, which is, again, started. I at least have barrier down and mulch, but not ready for planting much. But I do have hybrid willows on each side of this super large oak tree. So this oak tree I've named the Green Man, and this will be Green Man's garden. So right now I've only planted the hybrid willow, which they're actually looking great. So this is probably 3 years ago that I planted these. Deer got this one, and that's why it's shorter. But they're looking really good, really starting to show some growth. So here I'll try to do some shade planting, but I'll have to get in here and clean up the things that came through the barrier. I believe it's like some kind of wild rose bush. And then there's more of the hybrid willow trees on this side. So there's 3 on each side. This side, these actually, I think, got cut down entirely once, but they look totally fine, except for some deer damage. And then I have one bluebird house that I put up last year. I have another one of these posts that's not as tall, but another post that I'm going to put same distance on the other side. So there's a bluebird house on each side. Then I do have more seedling trees planted down this line. So the post is actually pretty much on the property line. So then just a few feet ahead of that, I do have some more seedling trees. There's some more hybrid willow, which are doing okay. Some of the other seedling trees not doing that great, but we'll see how they do this year. And then I also want to do more of a no-mow zone here. And I want to do lots of native, but kind of like what you see on roadsides, like the cup flower or the kind of native wild sunflower. Lots of yellow somehow is what I have planned for in here. But just hoping so that I only mow on this side of the tree line, and on the other side it'll just be pretty grass or pretty flowers. And that's the plan here. So this video has gone on quite long since I'm trying to demonstrate where the gardens are, where each of the gardens are that I'm at least starting. Out here is all alfalfa. As you can see, the bales are still here, which was not the plan. It was a little bit of a hiccup. So nothing planned for this area quite yet. Just planning the Green Man garden. I guess I could take a step closer here. I did add a cute little thing last year. So I want to do more of a fairy garden here. And I did put the door and windows last year. So lots of cleanup to do in here after putting down barrier and putting lots of, this was just wood chips, not mulch, but natural wood chips. So lots of cleanup to do in here. So the Green Man's garden have here Helen's Helen's blooming alley. Here, we'll see how large I can make it. I'm gonna start down there by the sumac. I had intended it for to go all the way here, but it got, as you can see, the grass came through. It was actually pretty bare ground for a while because there was a huge brush pile here. But then I didn't act quickly enough, and sure enough, all the grass seed blew over here. But for sure, from this tree, which is a pear tree, down to that tree, which is sycamore, with the sumac in between, I will do this whole area. You can see there's my brick edging that I started. I'm probably going to just completely pick it all back up again so I could really get this area secured. And I do see a couple of these daffodil. Like I said, I planted probably 3 years ago. I'll end with that daffodil, but this is Helen's blooming alley, then Granny's tea garden, and then just generally speaking, this is the far orchard. Pear trees, plum trees, a couple of cherry trees, one barely hanging on peach tree. So hopefully we'll get the trees that are surviving, we'll get them back to health, and we'll start adding more fruit trees. And then I have a whole bunch of seedlings coming this year. Way too many, I'm sure. But I have elderberry. I have some other kind of bushy things. I have hazelnuts coming. All kinds of things that I'll be tucking in to different spots out here in this section. So we'll just take a look at a bloom. Here's the cute small daffodil. So that's the April garden tour at Specht Haven. Apologies again for the breeziness and also for my scratchy throat. I do have a little bit of a cold. But this is giving you a nice early picture, and hopefully by the end of this growing season, at least by the end of summer, early fall, we'll see lots of progress, lots more color. Should be really exciting. And even for some of the perennials that I'm planting, you know, they may not bloom this year, but next year, 2023, should be lots of color here at Specht Haven. So hope you enjoy April. Hope you have a nice month as we transition into spring. I should also mention that here at Specht Haven we are in Illinois, kind of southern Illinois, but the northern edge of southern Illinois, and it is zone 6. I think I'm kind of on a funny line between 6A and 6B, but definitely zone 6. Stay tuned for lots more progress. See you next time.